Hey, everybody. I got a question for you. Let's think about this. If your emotions have led you into some type of hiding or betrayal or, I don't know, shame, how can you trust that they're going to lead you toward truth? Today, we're going to be asking a tough but a really critical question. How do people in recovery define their values when their emotions can't be trusted because their emotions have gotten them in trouble before and made them make unwise decisions? So we're going to join with Sai in this conversation, and I'm looking forward to it.
Welcome to Beyond the Facade podcast. I'm your host, Luke Gordon, and I'm thrilled to have you join me in this space today. What we're going to be doing is diving deep into the trials and triumphs and truths of seeking authenticity. Becoming your true self isn't about a single action or moment. It's a relentless pursuit, a commitment to self that reveals the rich connection and meaning that our life has to offer. So whether this is your first time tuning in or you're a regular listener, know this: what you're building here goes beyond a conversation. You're here to challenge, to change, and to celebrate the incredible journey of becoming your authentic self. Because when you dare to show up fully, the rewards are immeasurable. So welcome to Beyond the Facade. Let's get started.
All right, everybody, welcome to our podcast. I am excited. Sai's back here. Is this your second time, Sai, or is this your third time being on this podcast?
Second time.
Second time. So for those, because I know it's been quite a few podcasts ago, will you, for somebody that hasn't already listened to that, do you mind sharing who you are and what you do here?
Sure. So I am one of the coaches for Choose Recovery Services. I have been here for for a few years working with Luke and the team. And I as well came from a background with addiction and sexual addiction. And so with that, I have been on the journey of recovery and have been working on not only my own recovery, but couples recovery with my wife. So as well as helping other men in that journey as well, which is something I really love to do. Yeah, that's me.
And I just want to speak to you a little bit. If you've already heard this before, just bear with me. Choose Recovery Services traditionally has been an organization where the people that we work with have gone through this journey. So Sai is one of those people. So hopefully you get a chance to spend some time with them. Funny side note about Sai, and maybe I shouldn't say this because then you won't go work with him. He tends to have people engage in physical exercise as part of their recovery. And I can't tell you how many times that I send a guy to Sai and then he's got him like running some race or some marathon as a part of their recovery. It's fantastic. You get people into shape physically, mentally, and emotionally. Holy
I've tried to. That's true. You ran a race not too long ago, right?
I did. Yeah.
Why did you go run a race?
That's a good question. I did it because I wanted to connect with myself in ways that I'd never done it before. And it felt really good it felt important to tackle a part of my life that I didn't feel like I could tackle. And I had. So that's a really high, that's like a thousandth of you. It's way more detailed than that.
Yeah, obviously. One thing to point out with that, right, is you did something hard.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you feel about yourself now that you did that?
You said it. I went to breakfast with you one time and I didn't know what you were talking about. And I've told you this a million times. You said to me, you're like, you ran I think an ultra marathon, right? Like 100 miles.
100 miles, yeah.
And you finished your first one and you said, and I thought you were just being critical of yourself. Should have known this better knowing you. But you said, you know what? I don't even know what I'm capable of doing or something like that. And I thought you were saying I could run it faster. And I thought it was cool listening to you talk about that. And I realized I didn't know what you were saying, which is humans have no idea what they're capable of, what they can actually accomplish. The limits they can put themselves to. Okay, now I'm paraphrasing what you said. What did you actually say?
No, you said it pretty good, right? So my first 100-mile race, the Arkansas Traveler 100, right, that I finished it, and my wife looks at me, it's like, how do you feel? I feel like I could have gone harder. Felt great that I finished something I'd been working really hard to for almost 2 years at that point. High, really, really big. Can't even explain unless you've done it. You don't know what it feels like when you cross the finish line. You have a very good, strong sense of it because you finished a race, a big race for you, right? But that big high, but also looking back as you analyze it, like, wow, I could have gone harder. And it was an uplifting statement. It wasn't a wasn't being critical of myself. It's like, wow, I can do a lot more. And it felt very empowering to know, hey, yeah, I finished this, but I could have done better and I think could do harder things.
I think you said I have no idea what I'm capable of.
Yep. I have no idea what I'm capable of.
And I think that's like in recovery, that's an empowering thing to hear somebody that's farther along the journey than I am to say, because I feel like what I'm going through is just about to kill me. Like it's just don't, my shoulders aren't this wide. They're not this big. And I don't know if I can make it. And I feel like I can't breathe. I feel like I can't put one foot in front of the other. And then I go around that corner and I realize I'm way stronger than I think I am.
It's amazing. You are so to kind of highlight that, right? We think we are done with something long before we're actually done with it, right? Our brain is very wired to say, hey, you're not going to make it through this. You need to tap out long before you're ever at your limits. And kind of throw that into recovery room because I think this is an important note, right? As a betrayer to the betrayed partner, there'll be some really rough times and we'll be like, hey, I got to tap out. Like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. This is really hard. Her pain's too strong. But what's interesting is we usually start saying that long before we're ever actually ever hit what we're capable of. And you can do harder things than what you think you can. So that's one thing that's training for ultras has really helped me learn that, like, yeah, this is a scary moment, but it's not going to kill me. And I don't have to run from this. So I can run to it. Makes a big difference.
Yeah. So, okay. So Sai, I have a question for you. Why do you, is this intentional? Why are you having so many of the men that you work with engage with their bodies in the way that you are? And I don't even know the methods you use. I get a chance to hear about it. Cause I'll be like, hey, I went to one of the size groups and he's making us do push-ups. And I'm like,
oh yeah,
you're doing push-ups in your groups? Or, hey, I've signed up for a marathon and it's size fall, and they're laughing and they're smiling. It's love that they're saying it with their appreciation.
Yeah.
And guys, it's the men that are doing the work. It's not Sai doing the work, but he's an excellent coach to help men go in the right direction. But why are you having men engage the way that you are?
There's something to be said about learning to do something hard and being consistent in your daily activities that allow you to feel confident about who you are, right? Because when you go out and you just go do something hard, you exercise, you can get your body moving, you feel alive, you feel better about yourself to start with. And something that in addiction we get caught up in, right, Luke, is we feel like crap. Like we have no self-confidence. We don't believe in ourselves. We believe we are the scum of the earth and there's no hope for us. What moving and getting out and doing something hard, and I tell guys this all the time, so don't think that I just tell people, hey, you got to go out and run and you have to go run a marathon or an ultra marathon. Go do something hard, right? When we start, sometimes, so I don't do this every group, so you might play Russian roulette when you come to my group. You don't know if you're going to do push-ups at the beginning or not, right? But to highlight, if we do push-ups at the beginning of the group, one thing I've noticed, everybody's emotions change when we start the emotion checking, right? You can see people's faces. We get conversation going. Some people feel pretty down coming into groups sometimes, and they're like, life sucks. But then when they do 10 push-ups really fast to see who's the first one to do it and be back on the screen, I've only had one person beat me so far. So when they all get back, they feel pumped, they're excited. And then when we do check-in, they're like, wow, what I was experiencing before I started this group, before we did push-ups, I was coming in pretty like miserable and felt defeated. But when I just did these push-ups, I felt alive, felt excitement. I felt ready to go. I felt like I could keep going. And what's amazing is when you just go out and start doing push-ups, you go out and do a run, you come back, you feel better about yourself. You feel more excited about life. And if you're not consistently working out, my own personal opinion, you're not in recovery, right? I know there's different forms in recovery and people reach recovery without exercise, but it'll be a lot more fulfilling when you're doing something hard and you'll move move into recovery faster when you're actually exercising. I've heard therapists, right? They won't even meet with clients who are doing 30 minutes of exercise a day.
Jody?
Yeah. One of them, if you're not doing 30 minutes of exercise a day, they won't meet with you. There's a reason. And so when you go out and do something and accomplish something you may have said you never want to, like, Luke, did you ever think of running a marathon before?
Might have thought about it, but never took it seriously.
Yeah. Now that you're working towards running further, right? You did a half, right? That's the length you went.
Yeah, I ran a half.
You did a half. Something you never really, like, I never knew you to be someone who exercised, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now that you've done a half, how do you feel about yourself?
Proud of myself.
Proud. You can't take that away from you. You know you've done something. And that's what exercise, going out and doing something hard does, is it just creates a feeling inside of you that can't be taken away.
Mm-hmm.
You know you could do something hard. That's why. If you can build self-confidence in someone, they're excited about who they are, when they're able to go and then they're able to turn around and have a conversation about the things they've done in the past with their spouse. Their spouse starts in the trauma. They start saying, "You're a piece of crap." The guy can stand there and listen to them and be like, "I hear you. I understand what you're saying." But in his own brain, he's like, "I can understand what you're saying, but I know I'm not a piece of crap. I have things to prove that I'm not a piece of crap," rather than, "Yeah, I did those things and I am a piece of crap." Well, actually, I did those things, but I know I am changing and I am not a piece of crap. And that's where that really ultimately comes to, is you're able to sit in a conversation and know that you are not crap. You are worth something and you are able to do things. So that's where running and exercise and doing hard things can really come into play, is it builds your self-worth, your self-confidence, and it won't be torn down as easily if you're moving forward in that way.
Well, yeah, because you don't externalize it to other people, right? It literally comes from myself. I can do hard things and I don't need anybody else to acknowledge it. I can see it for myself.
Yeah,
It's from inside of me.
absolutely.
We're going to take a quick break for a moment. I want to let you know of some things that we have coming up at Choose Recovery Services.
Are you a woman carrying trauma in your body, tension, discomfort, and that tightness that just won't quite release? This is Hallie Roderick, and I would like to invite you to join us this August 26th through 29th in Spanish Fork, Utah, for Revive and Thrive, a 4-day somatic healing intensive designed exclusively for women ready to reclaim their bodies. Guided by expert therapists, coaches, and body-based specialists, you'll learn to uncover where trauma lives in your body and gently release it through somatic practices like art therapy, breath work, brain spotting, energy healing, mindfulness practices, and therapeutic immersion in nature. It's more than just an intensive. It's a sacred sisterhood where you'll process emotions, rebuild resilience, and come home to yourself, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So if you're ready to step fully back into your life with freedom and strength, visit the show notes to learn more and to register.
Let's get back to our episode.
I have a client who ran a marathon, and asking him if I were to go through the steps, I'm not going to say the things he did back to back with that were all hard, really hard, but it ended with a marathon. And after he got done with the marathon, he's like, "I feel amazing." He went through a lot of hard things, right? And then after he finished the marathon, he's like, "I feel amazing. Top of the world right now." Even the last few weeks were really hard, relationship wise and everything else. Like, it was like he felt amazing. That's what running and exercise and doing hard things can do for you.
Yeah.
Right? So it is a big deal.
I'm one of those people, whether you recognize it or not, if you work with me, that I won't, if you're in phase 1 of recovery, I won't work with you unless you pull exercise, getting your heart rate up into your daily activities. Because the neuroscience speaks to you can't live without dopamine. You can't live without reward. That's not a human. That's not possible. It's just the way you're used to living with reward is through really maladaptive, unhealthy ways. So let's fill that need with something that's healthy. And it's interesting because the men that seem to be ready for recovery hate the fact that they're going to be exercising, but they are willing to go through pain because the other pain's so great, and they start engaging with it, and they see value from it pretty quick. So
Absolutely. I have a client who, start with this. I have a saying, okay, that the devil can't run 8 miles.
oh, really?
If you go run it, if you're having a really bad day and life just sucks, especially relationship wise, right? It's just horrible. You can't do anything right. You go out and run 8 miles, tell me how you feel afterwards. And so I have this client, love the guy. Okay. He's like, he'll just start talking. He's like, oh, and all the problems just start weighing in. Like he gets in victim mode. And I start resentment and all these different things. I was like, yeah, I'm ran in a while. Have you? He's like, no. He's like, go run 8 miles and then we'll have a conversation. And he'll text me later. He's like, I ran 8 miles. I don't need to work through anything anymore.
Okay.
Right.
Well, why 8?
Well,
So did the devil can run 7.1? Just double check.
Yeah.
How'd you get 8?
So usually I say 10, but most
Wow.
people only takes them 8 miles. Okay. So I would usually say 10, but it's moved back to 8. And the reason 8 is you can run a 10K, 6.24, and it's okay, right? It's not too hard. You can go out and do it and you can feel good about yourself. But to really change the emotion and to really start doing something that like is just beyond what most people do, because most people never go beyond a 10K, right? And so if you go do something beyond what most people do, which is 8, it's 1.76 miles further than a 10K. It's further than what most people do. And that little difference makes all the difference for how the emotions go. And when one adds any work into their life, removes the anxiety and stress, and just going that much further than other people also adds in a little bit of like, wow, I can do hard things. This is something most people don't do, and I just did it.
Yeah. So I'd like to build into the conversation relationship with self running. Just the deeper, more intimate relationship with self. What have you noticed on your runs, Sai? What exists now that didn't exist before?
My ability to not give in to the talk of you just need to give up, like it's too hard. My understanding that that voice is there to keep me safe from a jaguar or a bear or a cougar, but it is also really quick to tell me to be lazy and tell me this is painful. And I don't have to give in to those voices that say, hey, this is too hard. You should just go sit on the couch. Hey, this is, why are you doing this? This is mile 62. You just reached 100K. And now you got to run over a 50K and over a marathon to finish a race. Why are you even doing this? And you can stop. And it's helped me be able to learn. I don't have to listen to those voices. And I can choose what I think about. Relationship with self. Personally, I think learning to be able to choose what you think about makes a huge difference. Changes how you think about who you are versus just allowing your thoughts to dictate how you feel and what you think about yourself. Learning that you get to control what you think about on those runs rather than letting those thoughts control you. That makes a huge difference in how you feel, makes a huge difference of who you think you are, and allows you to be able to stand in the pain of other people's emotions without running from them because you're not caught up in your own thoughts. You learn how to control those thoughts rather than let them control you.
What do you say to the person that's tried over and over again to run, and to get healthy physically, but has just failed over and over again?
My first question is, what was your goal?
Okay, I'll give you a generic answer so you can actually answer the question, which is, it felt important at the time, like my physical health. Maybe I didn't like the way that I looked or the way that I felt. But it didn't feel very important after a while.
Then I'll probably ask Luke, who was dictating how you felt about how you looked?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, let me give you a normal, what I feel like would be textbook answer that can fit is I don't know. I was just going through life and just looked in the mirror or felt just gross about what I was seeing.
Yeah. What about it was gross though?
Just the way that it felt. Like I would look at a picture or just notice like my energy to be able to tackle life just wasn't very good.
Okay. So how did you get there?
How'd I get where?
To a place where you looked in the mirror and didn't feel like you felt like you were gross.
About the way that I looked or about, because I feel like this is like a
Do
deep,
you look? This is a deep question. When you look in the mirror and you look at yourself, right? Like, how did you get to the place where you felt gross?
just not taking care of myself.
Tell me more about that. Like, what was the process of getting to a place of not taking care of yourself?
Just what I prioritized and what felt like it was the most important, just by gluttonous living of just feeding knee-jerk response desires, like food, just just responding impulsively to thousands of decisions.
All right. So I'm going to rephrase what I hear you saying. You reacted to emotions and let those emotions dictate what happened in your life.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Mhm.
So when you start running and working out because it's important at that time, and then all of a sudden it becomes important, what's driving your behavior?
What's important?
What's important? The emotions, right? Because at the moment it's important to start running, but then your emotions say, it's not that big of a deal.
Mhm. Mhm.
So when I talk about, like, if I'm a mile 62 and it's like, why are you even out here, right? Learning to not give into that emotion is important too. So if you look at this, you have something that we teach about, and actually Choose Recovery Beyond the Facade, we teach about emotional reasoning, right? And you start letting your emotions dictate your choices. Okay. And that's what I hear you talking about right there, right? You allow emotional reason to dictate your actions, and not really actions, your reactions to your emotions. And thus you end up eating chips like I would used to and still do at times, be honest. But then also you don't like how it makes you feel and look. So therefore you start running, which is an emotional reasoning to get yourself to run, which isn't a real reason to start running in the first place. It's helpful, and that's what we're told we need to do. So we react to how we feel, but then we feel like we've done enough work, and we feel like, oh, gone far enough, done 2 miles. That's more than I did yesterday. So I'm going to stop and walk home and eat a cheeseburger with chips and fries.
So if I'm not going to make decisions off of how I feel, what am I going to make decisions off of?
That's a great question. What are your values?
What are my values?
How do you make decisions in life right now, Luke?
Around working out or
Decisions in general. How do you make decisions? Do you make decisions off of emotions, or how do you make an actual decision in life?
yeah, the thousands and thousands that I make, right? I make decisions when they're not emotional.
I'm going to go on a limb and say, because of the conversation we have, 99% of them are probably emotion. And I know you're role playing, so I'm just throwing this
know.
out there as a comment, right?
Yeah, and as a part of the role play, I'm going back to the time in my life when I didn't even know that there was this concept of, I thought all decisions were in emotion. The thought of them being made in a different way made no sense to me. And
Yeah.
maybe if somebody would have said it, which is where you're going, it would have changed. It changed so much for me. What would that, if it wasn't off emotion, what would I make it off of? Which is, I don't know, I guess what I want my life to look like. What I want it to be like, what I want my goals, what I want to accomplish, just that kind of stuff.
So how do you know what your goals are?
I get a pick.
You get a pick, right?
I get a pick.
So, are your goals based off of emotion you come up? You get exciting to have a goal to buy a nice new vehicle.
Well,
Like,
I
what it's exciting.
realize that, yeah, I can, but I don't want them to be off of emotion because I realize it's going to put me back in the same spot again.
Yeah.
So I want it to be off something different. But Sai, what's different? I don't know what's different than emotion.
It's a good question, right? if we don't make a filter, and I call this having a filter for your life. You run everything you do through a filter. So I love the phrase. I first heard this phrase from basic training. I probably said this for a while back podcast, but I love it, right? Slow is smooth, smooth is fast, right? You take your time to make the choice that you want to make, you'll get further and in better places faster, rather than just being like, hey, I want a truck, so I'm going to go buy it now. Take your time, figure it out, create a plan, move forward, right? But how do you base that decision, whether it's a good decision or a bad decision? You have to be able to set up your values and your priorities in life, right? And if it's going to detract from your top 4 priorities, is it really worth doing? If it's not going to, it might be a good choice. Does it align with my values? I don't think going in debt aligns with my values. So maybe I should just create a plan, and therefore it really won't detract from my first priorities. I'll create a plan in which I can pay cash for. It's just an example. But rather than running off of emotion, like the other day, I was like, we really need a bigger truck, Suburban, so we can put stuff in the back rather than pile stuff on the back of the car on top of the kids, so we can actually carry stuff home from the store, right? I'm like, I need a Suburban. But if I allowed my emotions of frustration of not having a bigger car dictate what I did, I'd be $80,000 in debt right now. That doesn't help my family, which is my number 2 priority, right?
So, question for you. When you picked your values, how was that not done out of emotion?
Here, this is a great question, Luke. So one thing I heard from someone one time is it's a trial and error. Okay. If you pick your values to be, let's say, work, I'm just going to pick 3: work, exercise, like health, and friends. Okay. But you find that you're not hitting any of those, or you find that you're doing those, but you're still really frustrated, you might have one of your values off. And it can be a very big trial and error. But really, a lot of times those values, we sometimes pick those from our childhood, right? Where we grew up, and that might not be the right choice either. And so personally, I see that it's something that can be changed, and we can make it so as we go through things, it's not as frustrating. If you were to ask me, what's your values, right? God, family, country, work. Okay. They've aligned that way. And that to me creates more peace in my life than anything else. I've tried other values. Doesn't help me feel peace. Doesn't bring calmness into my life, brings chaos. And as long as I have those 4 values aligned with my priorities, like it makes everything makes my choices a lot easier.
So how do you guide a guy to do values work? And I know you're talking about it, but how do you guide a guy to do values work? And when do you do that in recovery?
I usually try to start that off right at the very beginning. And I start implanting the thought in their head, hey, what are your values? So they're like, hey, I don't know if I can do this. I'm like, how does not doing this align with your values? It means like, I don't even know what my values are. So we get to start digging into it. And I sometimes will give them a list if they really have no idea what their values are. We'll talk about what a value is. We'll talk about what priorities are. And we'll start aligning that all up and having them really dig in and take time to really decide what their values are. If it is a quick reaction like money, I'll be like, hey, let's sit down and really think about it. Take a week, right?
Yeah.
Come back, he still can't figure it out. We might talk, we'll spend another session on it, and I'll say, take another week and figure it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we can call them out on things where, like, that doesn't feel like one of your values, because for the last 2 months we've been working together, that has not been something you even brought up.
So is that just them using somebody else's values?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just looked this up while you were talking, and I was like, okay, emotional decisions versus blank decisions. And then like, what's in the blank? Because I've heard emotional decisions versus values-based decisions, but then I was thinking about what if our values were just came from our emotions? And I was like, okay, well, what's another word then besides emotional decisions? So it gave me the option of emotional decisions versus principled decisions, which it says emotional decisions are often reactive, driven by fear, anxiety, shame, or desire for immediate relief. Principled decisions are rooted in core values, long-term goals, and integrity, even when emotionally uncomfortable. So it's what you're talking about, right? Principled decisions. It gives differences between the two. So like other fitting options depending on it, like emotional decisions versus those are like logic based versus rational based, or so it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. If going back to mile 62 to 69, 100-mile ultra marathon, right? Emotionally based, maybe fear, I might get hurt, right? And this is too hard, painful. This is horrible. Why would I keep doing that? That's an emotional based decision if I were to quit. Okay. Value based decision. I value accomplishing what I set out to do. Right? It's one of my values. I value completing and following through with something I decide to do. So I'm going to continue to do it. And having that and being able to overcome that emotional decision at that time, a lot harder than it is any other time in your life. I'll be
A lot harder.
a lot harder. Like I've been through a lot of different things in life. The hardest decision I've ever made was to continue going at mile 69. The worst decision I ever made was to stop at mile 69. Okay.
Why did you stop?
Well, that's a long story and probably too much information as far as other things. Yeah. But
I feel like everybody on the podcast is going to be like, wait, why did he stop? Was it an emotional based decision?
It was an emotional based decision founded with logic that backed it up, but in the end, I learned a lot from it, and I learned I quit long before I needed to stop. I just needed to take care of a few things, and I would have been just fine. Right? And that's something you learn as you do.
And you learned, right?
I did. I learned, and that's why
So
I
did you
don't beat
fail?
myself up.
Did you fail?
I personally, I failed at completing that goal, but I learned from it, and failures are good.
Hey, everybody, we're going to take a quick pause here. We're going to make a part 2 of this episode because there's some really important stuff, and we're going to continue this on next week and keep the conversation going with Sai, because we recognize that this is a big part of our journey, which is learning, did I fail? What is failing? And I think Sai's personal experience, this really matters. So anyway, looking forward to continue the conversation next week with part 2.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. If this is something that you connected with, I'd love to meet with you more and talk about it. So what you can do is go to chooserecoveryservices.com or check the show notes. And there what we can do is set up a quick conversation to meet. Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Facade, where we unmask the authentic self.